welcome to the program, everybody. It is Table Setters, your go-to baseball podcast. I am your host, Devin. Yes, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, that kickoff to the show sounded a little different, you would be right. My co-host, Steve, usually kicks off the show, but Steve's in the middle of a move. This will be the first episode of Table Setters he's ever had to miss. The streak is over. Didn't quite reach Ripken status, but a pretty good streak there. But lucky for me and lucky for everybody who's listening, I have a fantastic guest today for the show for the second time. A true giant in the fantasy baseball world, FantasyPros analyst, host of the In This League podcasts and the Prospect One podcast. Chris Welsh joins us. Chris, thank you so much for coming on again. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good, man. I can't believe this is the first show that he's missed, though. It's almost tragic. We almost should have I guess even if I would have said, hey, let's do a different day, it wouldn't have mattered. He likely would have missed. So that's sad. That's very, very sad. Hopefully we can make it very memorable. But yeah, I'm very, very glad to be here. Love you guys. Love hanging out. Wish it was both of you, but Devin, you and I will have a great time.
Yeah, and we'll get you back on here with both of us at some point. Or maybe, like I said, like I told you earlier today, we'd love to get on your show or one of your shows at one point if you'd have us and if it works out.
The world should know. The world should know.
I know.
You guys were, I gave a personal invite to In This League, and it was not, you were just not able to make it happen. That's what happens.
Yeah,
100%. We will absolutely have you. I'd love to have both of you guys on, to be honest, but I did invite, and it was there.
It's true. It kind of broke our hearts to not be able to accept. But I will say, as far as Steve goes, a few months ago in the offseason, we had Eno come on, and I was not able to be there for that one. So this is my revenge on that part there. So I'll start with this easy question here. I saw through social media, you guys, the Fantasy Pros guys, were in New Orleans recently for your annual trip, I believe it is. So tell me a little bit about your trip to New Orleans and how you enjoyed the city.
Oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. I don't travel. I'm very an untraveled person. My time at Fantasy Pros has sent me to more destinations than I've done in my entire life. So it's a really cool perk. Very good thing about the company, but phenomenal trip. New Orleans is it's another universe. I've never experienced anything like it, to be honest with you. I'm a West Coast guy. I know you guys are on the East Coast of California. I live in Arizona now. Anyone watching, I'm very red right now because I'm out at spring training and I underprepared, even though it's cloudy, for sunblock. So I just don't know like anything outside the West Coast. It's a completely different universe. The music is incredible. The food is crazy. Probably the highlight was company lets us have like an adventure day, if you want to call it that. And a few of us ended up going out into the swamps and doing an airboat. And nice. incredible experience out in New Orleans. So it was great, man. I love traveling. I love being around the people that I work with. I work as a remote person. I live, in my office, which is definitely a perk, and getting to spend some time with those people and having crazy experiences. And I'm definitely becoming the dad of the group, though. Like, I don't really drink anymore and I don't do any of that stuff. So like, I'd hang out with those guys till like 2 a.m. and maybe save a few people from a few mistakes. So I think I'm becoming the dad of fantasy, even though like the great Joe Pisapia is probably our grandfather. No age pun intended there. He's like the OG of it. I think I'm becoming like Dad Welsh for the Fantasy Pros group, but I'll take it. Thanks for asking.
Honestly, every group needs someone like that, or it does them well if they have someone to look over them like that. I will say New Orleans is one of the, I call those like bachelor party cities. I feel like at some point in your life, you're going to all different bachelor parties. Somehow I never ended up in New Orleans. Been to Montreal twice, one for my own bachelor party. Love that city. Vegas a few times, Austin, some other random cities. New Orleans, somehow I never found my way there, but still on the list. But honestly, more so now for like, I'd love to go there for a college football game or that type of atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think I'd love to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. We did some interesting stuff. We did some shorts on it. You can check out on our sister company, Betting Pros, where we did like man on the street interviews with people. And it was like pre Mardi Gras and at night. And it's right before the Super Bowl we went, and we're like walking around interviewing people and just getting crazy experiences. There's a sports vibe there. But like I said, it is specifically Bourbon Street. It is its own like country. Like it seems to go by its own rules. That area seems to just not live by any normal. It is unlike what I've ever experienced. Very, very cool and good to do those things to kind of revive, it's like post football, because I do some football Fantasy Pros, and then getting set and getting prepped into the baseball season, because I literally came back and then now I'm in it. For baseball fans, obviously, camps are open. I've
Yep.
spent this week. I'm going to spend the rest of next week. Again, something that Fantasy Pros supports for me to do. And I go out and I try to get video and I just try to see what's going on, see if I can get little tidbits on some of these players. I happened to be there the day Corbin Carroll hurt his um, probably within an hour of seeing him when I left. So just very unique experiences. But those trips kind of equate to me jumping into the full baseball spectrum. We've been putting out videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm excited to travel a little bit more. But right now, my travel is to the Padres, and then to the
Right.
Diamondbacks, and then to the Angels. That's my traveling.
And you mentioned Corbin Carroll here. That's where I was going to go next. Not just Corbin Carroll himself, but it seems like Super Bowl ended and all of us baseball creators, tweeted out like it's baseball season. Let's
Yeah,
go. And then pitchers and catchers report. And it seems like right after that, the dominoes start falling of the injury news. So we had Reese Olson's out for the year, right? The Tigers signed a bunch of other guys anyway. Spencer Schwellenbach, it looks like he'll miss a significant piece of the season. It seems like information's still coming out there. And then suddenly the broken hamate bones are everywhere. Corbin Carroll, Francisco Lindor, Jackson Holiday. It's kind of a strange epidemic there, but let's focus on those last three to get the baseball portion of this kind of started.
sure.
How does that injury in your mind affect where they are going to be taken in drafts coming up? Or maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, it should. It's got to. I definitely, for many years, was like very injury agnostic, where it would just be like, you know what, if we're getting this piece of information and I can get this value, screw it, let's go. Obviously, as you get older and you do the things and you experience enough, and then you it's just like anything, like in aging, in real life, you just maybe get a little bit more like honed in. I'm like, okay, maybe I want to avoid injuries, and a big thesis to the last couple of years has been like, if a guy has a current injury and they are rehabbing back from it, I kind of don't want to be fully invested on those. Like, I want to move away. Those are the players that you should not be overreaching for, maybe even just straight avoiding. And Spencer Schwellenbach, one of my favorite players, I am
Yeah.
out. I am out.
Mhm.
60-day IL. Josh Hader, I'm out. Like, those are injuries. I'm not really sure I care what the value is. I just don't want any part of it. These three guys are really, really interesting because in theory, 6 weeks should come back. I think I've saw like Dr. Chow mentioned like 6 to 8 weeks could be it. Could they be 100%? No. It seems there's a little bit different optimism. Corbin Carroll seems to be a lot of the team is talking about like, well, he's going to miss spring training and should be back pretty quick. Lindor, I did the surgery, should be back quick. Jackson Holiday is a lot more negative. They're like, he's probably going to miss the first month. Here's my approach and how I'm taking it right now. And I still haven't even like completely, settled on how I'm going to do this. But I think you should assume that they're going to miss a month of the season. I think that's the baseline. Even if they're telling you a different story, I think that's what you should do. So, what is a monthless Carroll to you? I think at best, it's the end of the second round. At the worst, a monthless is maybe in the third round.
Yeah.
It's its own. Lindor, I think I put closer to he's already a second round pick. I'd probably put to like the fourth round. And Jackson Holiday, let's knock him down 2 rounds. But then here's the other piece. The hammy bone can also zap power. We've
Right.
seen that happen
Right.
from some time to time. Chad also mentioned that, to feel 100%, it's sometimes a 3 to 4 month recovery time period.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a decent chance that none of these guys may really find a comfortable spot where they're going to be able to tap back into the power. So what is a zapped or semi-zapped power version of Corbin Carroll? We need him to run more because I think you can live with 20 homers from Corbin Carroll if he's back to stealing 40 bases or 50 bases.
Mm-hmm.
Lindor, he's kind of tough because he's not going to steal 50 bases. You got to ask that question. What if those 30 homers go down to 20? Carroll's go from 30 to 15 to 20. Jackson Holiday, same thing. Now, who has the best case for batting average is Corbin Carroll. So it's like, I need Corbin Carroll to hit for average and I need him to make up on the stolen bases. And I think that can create the value. So I'm kind of going in a circle talking about the process of what this means. You have to find your own risk reward,
Yep.
is a guy that has a current injury with a semi-unknown timetable scary? if they lose some of their power, how scary is that player to your lineup? And that's where the arguments can start to happen, which happened in one of our groups, something like Joe Rico, who does stuff with us in Fantasy Pros, and Pisa Pia and Kelly Kirby. We were talking about how far down should they go? And Rico had mentioned like maybe 3 to 4 rounds. That seems like a lot, but it's your risk tolerance. I am settled on trying to be pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. I'm going to put for now, until we get more information, Corbin Carroll in the back half of the second round. I think that's an interesting wheel pick. If you could go and get Bobby Witt, and then you could tap Carroll and then get another safe piece to kind of help you out. Lindor is going to be a 4th rounder to me, possibly a 5th. And I think that position is just so deep. It's probably safer to say it's an avoid. Jackson Holiday is someone I really liked, but like, I think ECR, Fantasy Pros ECR, the expert consensus ranks, he's like in the 140s. I think he's got to go in like the 180s or 190s. I moved him below Dansby Swanson. So Jackson Holiday is kind of becoming a void. Lindor is probably a don't draft. And I think Corbin Carroll has the best upside, maybe the most risk, that I'm still willing to do it. I'm not going to knock him multiple rounds, but I don't think you can look at anything before the back end of the second, and probably going to sit more firmly in the third, because I think a lot of people are scared.
Yeah, and just in comparison for people listening, if you looked at NFBC ADPs, Corbin Carroll was around 8. Francisco Lindor was around 16 before these injuries. So when we're talking about those, second round, 4th round, it's a relatively big drop. But that power piece you mentioned, which I was reading about today, is the scary part. Like, all right, they could be back by opening day or shortly thereafter. But if the power is kind of gone for a while, that definitely takes some of the value away. I saw an interesting note. Lindor's teammate, Francisco Alvarez, broke his hamate last year, and he was out for exactly 46 days. And 46 days would take us to opening day as of now, apparently, from what the note I read. So interesting to see if he does make it. I don't think there's any reason to rush someone, especially when you talk about that power piece. But I want to talk a little bit about regression candidates here. And there's one guy I want to talk about, Cal Raleigh here. I'd have to think mostly just because of how absurd his 2025 was. He's due for some regression, I guess, from last year at least. I mean, if you look at the projections, no matter which one you want to look at, whether it's Steamer or Oopsie or whatever you enjoy, he's between 37 and 42 home runs, hitting around 230 according to them. The value at catcher is still so high, obviously. The ADP, when I looked on NFBC, is around 18. How do you see Raleigh this year, and would you personally take him that high?
I haven't yet. What was it, 18 you said?
18.
Probably not. I mean, I don't want to say I'm not open to it, because I'm pretty like anti-catcher. I'm not as big at, like, you get a lot of people, and more than ever, it's very interesting because I've been doing this for a while, since 2014. Plenty of people doing it a lot longer than me, but we have this firm change now. The argument, and I'm making this about something else, by the way, now, but we have these firm arguments that seem to be more like, are you a roto guy? Are you a head-to-head guy? Are you a Yahoo? Are you an ESPN? And now it's like, are you an NFBC high stakes guy? Or are you, a Yahoo, or home league guy? It's like home league versus high stakes. And what we're getting now is we're getting a lot of people that only speak in high stakes forms. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because NFBC is like 2 catcher league. So NFBC data pushes up catchers, and I think it sometimes shoves them in our face a little bit. Single catcher leagues are just not as important. So from a positional standpoint, I gotta be honest with you, I don't really even look at Cal Raleigh and I'm like, oh my God, he's so much better than all the others. That's not in my mindset. If I'm going to take Cal Raleigh, it's because, oh my God, the guy hits 60 homers. And if I still believe he can hit 40 plus homers, I'm doing it for the power. I'm not doing it necessarily because of the positional advantage I get to take, because frankly, I think the position at catcher is pretty robust. We're looking at a time, Adley Rutschman, if you want to talk, you're talking about regression candidates, you want to talk about buybacks for a second. If you buy back an Adley Rutschman, you're getting outside the top 10 catchers right now. So what that allows you is, if you believe Adley has the top 5 potential, or I talk a lot about Ivan Herrera, someone I really like, who in some formats doesn't have the catcher eligibility, but will. Those guys are going so late. The advantage of taking those guys and getting other positions before taking that catcher spot. Yes, Cal Raleigh is so much better than the other catchers, but when you're not taking a catcher and you're getting a catch, other catchers that have like top 3 or 4 overall, you can build out your team in other ways. So like, I guess what I'm saying about that is like the positional stuff just doesn't mean much to me. It just purely becomes about Cal Raleigh. So like I haven't done it. I'm open to it, but I do think, and I am worried that there is like a pretty aggressive form of regression in his sites. Like the projection systems are doing it because they're going to work off of some like 3-year rolling average. They might wait this last year the heaviest, but like, you know, we've seen him be a 30 home run guy. We've seen him not really hit for average. Yes, the underlying stats look pretty monstrous. 19% barrels, like absurd. He hit the ball hard. He struck out less. He walked more. He got the ball in the air and he pulled the living crap out of it. I mean, the one of the best, I think, like fantasy baseball hitting equation is like, barrel. It's just, I guess it's just addition. It's just barrel, hard hit, and pull aired percentage, and throw a little bit of launch angle in there. And like, that's a really great recipe for a hitter that's going to have some massive power potential. But Cal really struggled in the second half. Like I don't know, that second half might have single-handedly just made him not even a voice in the MVP candidacy, because he hit 170 or 194 in July and 173 in August. One of the most important times in your fantasy run. Did he still hit homers? Absolutely. He was just cranking homers left and right. And he's playing in a really suppressive ballpark. But his average dipped 30 points, half over half. He hit 259 in the first half, and post All-Star break, he hit 229. And I think it kind of just got back to like the league adjusting, his ability to hold up. I see him as like a 40 homer guy. I just don't see the 60 homers, but that doesn't mean he's not worth it. So I think he will regress because he hit such a ridiculous, like unmatchable number. But I don't know if it's a regression that we should like put him in articles. You know what I mean? That we need to write stories about how he's going to regress, because like he's still going to be super valuable. And frankly, I'm not opposed to drafting him if I want to go with massive power. I used this in a show the other day, but like I could see a scenario where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go balls to the wall power and give me Junior Caminero and Nick Kurtz. And that's a regression candidate. Nick Kurtz is out there, but I want to go crazy power. The same thing could be said about like, maybe I go Acuna and Cal Raleigh, and I could have just a whole bunch of power potential. Like I could throw Cal into that mix. So maybe if Kurtz is off the board and Vlad is off the board, I would do it. But I get stuck in the like, I think the people make the arguments about Cal. He's a catcher and he's just so much better. And it's just like, no, he's a good hitter, but I think he's going to hit like 240 and he's going to hit 40 homers and he's probably going to be 100, and that is worth a second round pick. So I guess if you were to say, is he a regression candidate or not? By virtue of your statement, he is, but I would say no, because I still think he's going to just put up these like awesome, monstrous numbers.
Right. And you mentioned his second half. The catcher that absolutely killed it in the second half was Shea Langoliers. Like he was one of the best hitters, not just as a catcher, in the league last year amongst everybody. And I think a lot of people are intrigued to see if he can kind of carry that over into a full season, especially in that ballpark.
It's funny you said that, because I was actually looking for this like breakouts that we just did this episode on ITL, Bogman and I, and it was like breakouts that we don't buy. And I remember like I wanted to pick on Shea, and I looked, and when you remind yourself about not just the statistically, but you look at all the underlying stuff, you're like, oh, never mind. Like he stopped striking out, and everything just improved to such a degree, and he's still gonna hit in a minor league ballpark. Like, no, I can't put him as any type of regression candidate, because he made such good strides and he's still got like such a great environment to hit. So yeah, good call on Langoliers.
And there's another, I don't want to talk about catchers the whole episode, but there's one more with catcher eligibility that jumps off the page. Ben Rice. You can't help but drool when looking at his baseball savant page. Everyone's seen it, tons of red. Yet some fans were upset the Yankees re-signed Paul Goldschmidt. Obviously, we know he crushes lefties, but people are wondering if that's going to cut into Rice's playing time again. They want to give him the ball at first base, but how would you be approaching Ben Rice this season? ADP of 55 right now in NFBC at the moment. What are you thinking about Rice?
Yeah, reminder, like that's skewed because the two catcher stuff. But I'm drafting the hell out of Ben Rice. And something I've been having an argument, again, it actually comes back to the catcher thing. Whenever I bring up Ben Rice, and I think we did this in a first base episode, it was like, well, we shouldn't talk about him there because he's a catcher. And I've said, listen, I think Ben Rice, we need to start thinking more about the comfortability of him being, yes, he qualifies at catcher. And like, yes,
Right.
there's an advantage there. But something I really like about him is the catching position, as I mentioned, is like deep. First base can get a bit weird. If you take Ben Rice and you just clear your mind of the position stuff, you could just view him as a first baseman. And then you have this advantage later in your draft where if there is a time where the first baseman become worse than the talent crop of catcher, go take a catcher and you can be comfortable with Ben Rice as a first baseman. Elite underlying skills, 15% barrel, 93 average hard hit, 56% overall. I said 93 average exit velocity, 56% hard hit rate with a sub 20% K percentage. Guess what? Our equation, he gets the ball in the air, he pulls it, he does all the things you want in a really great environment. And obviously the Savant page speaks for itself. Like, this is the 30 home run guy. I don't think the signing of Paul Goldschmidt means anything. I don't think it means anything to him. They can put him at catcher. They can put him at first base. They get a little bit of flexibility. I don't think they put him into some like massive platoon. I mean, this version of Ben Rice under 500 at bats, if we get the majority of this, I think you're still fine in where you're drafting him. And I think in more like home leagues, he's going probably in the 70s instead of like two catcher leagues. He's more valuable, but I just want to draft him everywhere. His expected batting average is 30 points higher than his actual batting average at 280. Like, if these things click right, holy crap, he's going to be not just, the most obvious second catcher, but he'll be like a top 5 first baseman. But even if they don't go right, and this is what you get over like 100 more at bats, you get 250 something with 26 homers and, maybe the runs and RBI are a little bit up, you're still going to be happy. So I think we should be drafting Ben Rice a ton. I think the lofty Savant page maybe does read like someone that's like, maybe he could regress. I'm going to say no. I think I'm going to buy into the underlying stuff. And I think there's 30 home run pop we're going to get on a full season for him. And Goldie's changing nothing for me.
The Yankees have gotten a lot of criticism, at least amongst their own fan base, for kind of bringing in, rolling it all back and with the same squad, although their offense was fantastic last year. But lots of other teams made lots of moves, lots of changes. So let's talk about a change of scenery guy. I want you to tell me, whether it be a free agent signing or maybe a trade, is there a player out there that changed teams where you think that change is clearly going to increase his value in fantasy baseball going forward?
Okay, that's interesting. That the team context is one that I'm not sure if we had like a boatload of guys where the team context completely changed. I'll give you actually the same team. Man, I'm gonna sound like you're gonna hate. Are you a Yankees fan?
I'm a Mets fan.
Okay,
Mets
good.
fan.
Then you're gonna
Steve's
like me a lot
fan.
more. The blue hat was making me second guess everything, but a couple players that jumped right out when you said it were, and I hate to like bunch a lot of these guys up, but I think like the number one destination spot was Luis Robert. That one jumped out to me. Luis Robert, there's a little emotional side to him. It's kind of been known in a lot of circles. Like, he's kind of a quirky guy. I don't want to like call out and be like he wasn't trying, but there's definitely an element of like his head wasn't in the game as a White Sox, especially like Abreu left. And I think that was someone he really, really looked up to. And there was no Eloy, all that crew. He was kind of playing on this winless team across the board. And now you're going into a place where the eyes are not on you. You're not the number one guy. You're playing with some of the best in the world. You're playing with Juan Soto. You're playing with Francisco Lindor. You're in a good hitting environment. And this is a guy who was still putting up good counting stat numbers while there were some big struggles, was it 14 homers and a bunch of stolen bases. I think the destination change is absolutely huge for Luis Robert. That's the first one that came to my mind. But it's funny because the other ones is like, I love Freddie Peralta in this spot. And I also like Marcus Semien. I think Marcus Semien is a huge fantasy value for everything that we kind of said. He also had there's rumors of like him having issues with Corey Seager, but like nothing changed in his underlying game. Like, we're going to go and pick apart players and, he's getting older and you go, oh, okay. Did he hit the ball less hard? Did he do this? It's like Semien didn't, the core of his game is still there. Just some of the counting stats kind of fell apart. So I think going and being in a better hitting environment, hitting in the middle and right around those key big players. I think Simeon and Robert were really, really put in good spots. And they were there's definitely, like, if I look and think about it a little bit harder, I could probably pick out a couple, but those were the immediate ones. Luis Robert probably being the top guy of team destinations that really benefited him and his potential fantasy value.
Well, as a Met fan, I'm hoping that is yeah, facts right there. But obviously when we do an episode like this, we are referencing ADP a lot, right? And we have to, but there's a part of me, honestly, and I don't know if you feel this way as well. There's a part of me that hates having all of that information, like so much of it, because I think at times it can make drafting feel a little formulaic, a little robotic, in a way of like, I really want that guy, but the list says I should take this guy right now. So here's the question. Who's the guy you're willing to say, screw the ADP? I'm taking this guy. I need him. I will willingly reach for this guy.
Ooh, okay. There's a couple of, what's funny about that is when I go through like my, my ranks and my process, I don't look at any of that. And I will find some times where I'm like, oh, like I didn't know that I was this high. Me and Bogman joke about that a lot, where it's like, oh, didn't realize I'm the world's highest on ... player or something like that. Two players that, there's like actually a couple players that come to mind. The current one that I think I have drafted like 20 or 30 spots higher than where I see them, like just specifically on Fantasy Pros ECR. That ECR, by the way, expert consensus ranks, not being the average draft position, but the expert consensus ranks. Eugenio Suarez, Gino. I think I took Gino in like the 60s or the 70s in a draft last week, and he's going off at like 92 in the expert consensus ranks. So that's a player, especially with the power potential, him back in Great American Ballpark, supportive of batting average, coming back up. Look at what Gino was with the Diamondbacks in the first half. If you're getting that plus and across the entire season, that's 45 plus homers. And like, he's going after Michael Harris. He's going after Alex Bregman. There's no chance I'm taking Alex Bregman before I take Eugenio Suarez. So that is not happening whatsoever. There's kind of like a small grouping, but I really like some of these young pitchers. Emmett Sheehan, Bubba Chandler, Chase Burns. Those are all guys that I kind of just don't care. I actually took Chase Burns. Like, I didn't love it, but like as an SP2, if I had to pick from those guys, I think Emmett Sheehan, or actually it was Emmett Sheehan that I took as a 2. That's a player that I'm like really, really vaulting up. Phenomenal run with the Dodgers last year. So much so that like 2 months ago, I think there was a conversation where I remember I got pushed back. Someone's like, "Well, you like Emmett Sheehan when Roki Sazaki's out there?" And I'm like, dude, if it's a 6-man rotation, Emmett Sheehan has nothing to do with it. He is locked in. Plus, they got lots of pitcher injuries. His stuff looked phenomenal. Looks like he could be a low 3 ERA pitcher throughout the majority of the year. 3 great pitches. I love Emmett Sheehan. Those are one hitter, one pitcher that come to mind that I just don't really think about. And, and to your statement, like, I think it's important to understand the value of players, but you should definitely never be beholden by them. You want to know it because, maybe you want to try to slip one by. Maybe you want to see,
Right.
if you can get a guy. I've seen this happen time before where it's like, you don't want to take a guy in the 5th round when they're going average in the 10th round. Use ADP as like a tool, but not as your driver. Don't let it be Waymo. Don't let it drive you around. Just make sure you're just using it as like a map. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's there. You should absolutely take your guys. But, ADP can also help in like the valuation and your overall construction. But yeah, you don't want to become beholden by it. And more and more as I get older, I do that less and less.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I've been in drafts where I kind of find myself looking at it too much and have to kind of snap myself out of it because if you've played fantasy baseball long enough and you've followed baseball and you're a hardcore baseball fan, like you do have the knowledge to kind of do it on your own. Like you said, use it as a tool. That's not necessarily be beholden to it, like you said.
Yeah, and baseball's pretty unique too. It's crazy because like I've been doing fantasy football as long as I've been doing baseball, and I've talked and I do it more in a much bigger platform on Fantasy Pros now. But like I try to tell a lot of people, like, if you've only played fantasy football, you would love fantasy baseball, the strategy that pushes you beyond. And fantasy baseball definitely has, I think, even more than football. Football has a marker where you got to stop and you got to start paying attention to your position stuff, but it's not just positions. It's like I got to pay attention to stolen bases, So it's like if you are heading into your team, you can make those adjustments and you could just be like, you know what, screw this. Chandler Simpson's going 145. I've taken Suarez and I've got Nick Kurtz and I've got, whoever the hell else, Junior Caminero. I've got all these big power hitters. I've really got to up my batting average in stolen bases. Take them 3 or 4 rounds later. Like paying attention to the structure of the categories, unless I guess you're doing points, the categories that you're trying to chase and the construction of your team, those should be priorities before average draft position, like all day, every day.
Yeah, that reminds me. Steve and I were invited to one of Scott White from CBS, Scott White's mock drafts that he did a write up on a few weeks ago, and I took Jose Caballero somewhere late in the draft, but like above where he was being taken other places. But again, that was strictly in mind, and it's a mock draft. But like I'm thinking about stolen bases at that point. But honestly, this was not a planned question. The Caballero thing, I've talked to Steve about this. Obviously, it sounds like Volpe is not going to start the season healthy.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any world where if Caballero goes and tears it up, and Yankee fans will fall in love with him if he does? Is there any world where Caballero like takes that position? I'm not saying Volpe gets no playing time, but maybe becomes a little less of a factor.
Yeah, like in a Doctor Strange, like, of the
Right.
50 million or whatever scenarios, one, there's probably more than one. There's scenarios, but like if you're making me bet on it, or you said
Right.
out of 10, how many times, I would never say more than twice. I would say 8 out of 10, he's not, because I think he's very valuable as a super utility player that they can move around. They can give other guys days off. B, you alluded to, they didn't really make a lot of moves.
Mhm.
But I think that also opens them up to being aggressive in the trade market. They have got guys like Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez that now live in limbo. They've got pitching prospects through the wazoo. They've got a robust system that, yes, they didn't go make a ton of stuff in free agency, but that doesn't mean that they don't get heavy in the trade market at some point, and that could immediately take him out. So I know where you're getting at. He's valuable. Bogman loves him. He's got him ranked really high. There's a ton of stolen base upside and equity in there. But I wouldn't bet that he's going to like Volpe comes back and they're like, you're on the bench, or that they're going to make a full commitment to Caballero. And just the last thing, it made me think about your Caballero thing. We've got this thing on Fantasy Pros where you could do one of two things. You can like attach your league and you can do just like mock drafts about your league, or, you can set up a league and you can run through it. But at the end, it'll give you this draft card, which is cool. And it'll show you like, maybe I liked your team the most, or I hated it the most. And it'll give you all these things, and it'll do this thing at the end. And I'm saying this to my own company. It's probably the thing I listen to the least. And it'll go, here are the players that you reached on. And I find it interesting because like Caballero would be one of those guys. But I've always noticed anytime I get that in the fantasy baseball world, it's like, well, yes, because I deviated from ranks because I was not caring about ADP and I was working on my positions or working on my stats. And it's something I always like that it dings it and it shows me it, but it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to put that aside because I don't care that you yelled at me for taking Caballero 3 rounds higher than he was. I got yelled at about like Emmett Sheehan. I took him like 3 rounds higher than he was. I'm like, I don't care. That's my guy. And you ever want to know if you are kind of bucking the trend of ADPs, that is a tool actually I've used. I'm like, oh, okay, I truly am not paying attention to where the hell he's going because this is my guy. And that helps me identify my guys.
Yeah, it's a cool system to have, but at the same time, like that context of like, well, I was trying to go for this category that I was either weak on or needed more on when I feel really good about other things. We're talking about players that you like so much that you're willing to reach for. On the other side of things, I remember talking to you last year, and Steve and I asked you for someone you thought would be disappointing, and you were very clear when you answered. You prefaced by saying this is not necessarily a disappointing player as a whole, but maybe fantasy owners would be disappointed in what they end up getting for him where he was being drafted. And you gave us Jackson Merrill. And honestly, I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it last year.
I was very excited to hear what you had to say because I had absolutely no idea who you were going to say. And I was like, ooh, did I get this? Was I really stupid or was I smart? Okay, cool.
So that brings me to this year. So we're going to put you on the spot again. You nailed it last year. What about this year? Who is being drafted too high where fantasy owners are going to look back and be like, I wish I didn't take that guy that early?
That's funny because there's one guy that comes to mind, and maybe it's like it's a little recency because I just did it. I've literally done 2 shows in the last couple of weeks, so maybe I'm actually being a little too aggressive on it. I do not like Bryce Terang and where he's going. I don't want to say I don't like Bryce Terang because, to his credit, and I don't want to, I'm definitely going to do it. We're all hypocrites to some degree. I'll definitely like see things and maybe cherry pick, certain things to tell my narrative. And the positive narrative, if I were looking at him, is I would go, guys, he tripled his barrel percentage. It was 2% to 7%. He dramatically changed his hard hit percentage to an irrelevant 29%, up to 47%. You got to love that. And his average EV went up. So it's like he altered himself to be a better power hitter. And then guess what? Results were there. He more than doubled his power output. He went from 7 to 18. Great. His batting average was up at 288. I'm not sure if that's necessarily correlative, but like, it's great. He looks really good. My problem is like, there was a massive decrease in his stolen bases, at least year over year. He stole 50 the year before, and he was down to 24. Don't want to be dismissive of 24. Don't want to be dismissive of like a 2020 guy either, but that's a pretty dramatic drop. On top of it, this has kind of been one of the big ones. All the months that he played, 5 of the 6 months, if you don't count March, he hit 1 or 2 home runs. That's it. 1 month in August. 10 of his 18 homers came from that 1 month of a power output. So again, that doesn't mean he can't like average it out and be a little bit more consistent. But my problem is you take a soloed out power output. You take a guy who did make great changes, but he doesn't get the ball in the air. 8-degree launch angle. That's not super great. And guess what? One of the worst pull percentages, 7%. So that means, yes, he's hitting it hard, but that's like a doubles hitter. He's not getting the ball in the air or pulling it. There are guys that have low hard hit numbers, but they pull the crap out of the ball and they get homers. CJ Abrams. Bryce doesn't have that. So I think when I see low pull and I see low getting in the air, he's a well below bat speed guy. He doesn't get to that. And a guy that has a history of not hitting for power. I just don't buy it. And then, projections are kind of with me. 13 homers, 20 stolen bases. My argument just comes back to this. If he, and by the way, projections also have him hitting 255. If he's a 260 hitter, I'll give him a little extra credit. And he hits under 15 homers or 15, and he steals 20 to 25 bases. Is he a third round player? Is he worth the top 4 rounds? I mean, he did score 97 runs. I just don't think there's a lot of wiggle room with him because I don't see him making a massive improvement off of that. I don't see him hitting 25 homers and stealing 35 bases. The speed seems to be going there the wayside. The power is telling us a different story. And he's going as like a top 50 guy. So I'm just not super into Bryce Terang. Maybe this is not as flashy as Jackson Merrill, but he's going off as the second baseman. I know the position stinks, but I think that's part of it. People are like, this position sucks. I need to get this guy because I don't want to fall apart. And I would just argue that like all these guys later, I guess I don't, there's a couple of second basemen I don't love, but like, give me the value on some of these second basemen instead of paying for a guy that I think we're solely putting him up there because of this power change that I don't think really is realistic to continue or at least grow.
Yeah, I mean, the argument makes a lot of sense, and I think you nailed it at the end. That's what I was thinking as you're talking. I think how shallow that position is probably causing people to take him maybe higher than he should be. But another guy you mentioned very briefly in passing earlier is Nick Kurtz. And as far as, maybe a guy being taken too early, I know it's early in the fantasy baseball season. Some of the things you're seeing, mock drafts, are a little bit of the wild, wild west at points. But I've seen him in some places being taken as early as late first round, early second round. Your thoughts? Worth it or stay away at that point?
I think I'm gonna stay away a little bit from Kurt. I mean, I've talked about him a couple times and like maybe where I could take him. I think, especially if you put me in like a competitive home league, or you put me in an NFB, like a draft champions or something like that, and bigger money is on the line. Push comes to shove, I don't think I'm going to take Nick Kurtz. That doesn't mean I don't think he's good, but I'd argue, okay, warning signs. Your 2 biggest warning signs that are staring you in the face are a regressive batting average, which is sitting at like 255, or his XBA is 245 after hitting 290, and monstrously bad strikeout numbers, almost 31%. So if the batting average says it's going to regress and the strikeout numbers are kind of staring you in the face as a problem, even though a lot of the like hitting metrics are great, it's like, okay, then what am I buying? I'm buying the power. I'm like, I think he's going to be a 45 home run guy. I'm open to that. But I think the strikeouts could be a much bigger problem this season. He's not going to get away with stuff, though he is in that minor league ballpark, which makes this tricky. But I think you can get the power in other places. In the same round, give me Schwarber over him. We talked about Eugenio Suarez. There's 45 home run potential. I'm not sure that I feel the worth of needing to chase when projections, and I think some of his underlying stats say, he's not a 290 hitter. The strikeouts are a problem. But again, the ballpark definitely with 18% barrel and 51% hard hit rate, he could hit 45 homers. I guess I'm a little bit worried it's going to become like 240 or 230 with 45 homers, but that is like a Kyle Schwarber. So I obviously you can tell like I'm a little bit on the fence. What I have done is I've compared Nick Kurtz to Junior Caminero, and I think Junior Caminero, even though Caminero is going from a minor league ballpark into a less hitter friendly actual ballpark environment, I feel more comfortable with Caminero than I do Nick Kurtz, regardless of the environment, because I think the hitting profile is a lot more chalk in Junior Caminero, like lower K percentage contact numbers than it is Nick Kurtz. So I'm probably avoiding Kurtz in some spots, but I might get tricky, especially if, if we just lost Corbin Carroll, from the pool, and Lindor's from the pool. Now we've moved him up a couple more spots. Like, I might take that shot, especially if I got like a Bobby Witt. If I got like a Bobby Witt where my batting average is safer and I got some stolen bases and power, and Kurtz were to fall back, which would have to be more of a dramatic fall. I think that pairing looks kind of good. Juan Soto and Kurtz, that looks really good. But you want to risk like Kurtz with Ellie? I don't know, like you might have to really focus on batting average later if you do that. I just think Nick Kurtz is going to be more of a batting average problem than is maybe being accounted for.
Yeah, when you talk about the strikeout rate and the XBA, it makes sense. You can't really argue against that. Speaking to go out to the other side of things, pitchers a little bit. We haven't talked that much about pitching. It's pretty common to see the trio of Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, Garrett Crochet taken late first round, early second round. I heard you say on one of the episodes of In This League that you're not really interested in those guys there this particular year. Not that you don't like them. I understand your reasoning completely from what I heard, but just do me a favor, just in case any of our listeners have not heard that, explain your mindset to them here as far as those guys that early.
Yeah, it's not that they're not good. Those are the pitchers. I mean, if anything, pitching is so wonky. If you need consistency in pitching, you should go for those guys. But this is kind of a yearly trend. The investment in a high-end pitcher takes you away from the investment in one of the best hitters in baseball and chasing those categories. And, I think at the back end of rotations, you can end up streaming. You can create a streaming spot to be like a SP5 in fantasy if you do it right, SP4. I think there's some really good value. I mean, Schwellenbach is gone. That's someone I would buy back on. But, if you're starting to look into the 20s and 30s, you've got exciting arms like Nolan McLean that are floating out there. You've got buybacks if you think like Yuri Perez can bounce, or Strider. Strider's had top 5 potential. There's just so much depth. I think 50 deep of guys that it's like you could bundle. Like, would you really argue with me if I was like, hey, Bubba Chandler could be an SP3, or Chase Burns can be an SP2? Like, obviously you could be like, no, I don't think blah, blah, blah. But it's like their stuff is within the realm of possibility. And those guys are going in the 30s and 40s. So it's a matter of, I think what you're losing on the offensive side, the gap of losing those like high batting average 30-30 guys in the first 2 rounds is a much more difficult gap to bridge than it is losing those elite pitchers and finding great strikeouts and lower ERAs later. I think you can build a staff that maybe can't come within like what, one Skeens could do, what I'm getting at, like having the eliteness of Skeens. Then I do that. You passed up Jose Ramirez, and then you passed up, Fernando Tatis Jr., and you went double pitching. And then now in the 3rd and 4th round, you're trying to, make up, and you're just like, well, crap, I've got to overtake Wyatt Langford. And now I've got to maybe take Bryce Harper. And then now you've struggled with batting average. And I think the importance of the offensive categories and the eliteness that the top 2 round batters give you is weighted so much higher than those pitchers. So I'm just avoiding. I won't have. I mean, I shouldn't say won't, but I will likely not have a Skeen, Scooble, or a Crochet. I had all last year. That was my dude. I was all about him. I took him in tons of spots. He was my bet of the year to lead the league in strikeouts. That paid, but that was because you could get him in like the third round in that wheel, and
Right.
or middle third round. That's gone. Now he's going into like early second round. So I just won't own those guys. Like I will probably start. Let me tell you the earliest pitcher that I would probably look at. I will probably start in at best the Hunter Brown to Logan Webb. Logan Webb is someone I'm a little bit higher on. So like, what's that, fourth, fifth round? Like that's I don't see myself in the third round getting Chris Sanchez or Yamamoto. So I think it's the fourth round is probably when I'm going to start paying attention to pitching.
Those three pitchers we named, Scooble, Skeens, and Crochet. There's almost that it's that like comfort pick you're paying a price for, and I think sometimes it's with where your experience has been. I'm thinking of this season in fantasy football. Not to go there, but I took Josh Allen in the second round, and part of it is because I have struggled at the quarterback position for so many years of trying to get a little too cute and waiting a little too long. Where this year I was just like, you know what? I'm just taking him. I just want to fill that position and know I have it and just look elsewhere for the rest of the draft. I think there's a little bit of that, obviously, in a different way in fantasy baseball, because like you kind of alluded to before, it's a little more intricate
Yeah,
than fantasy football.
And formats also like, Roto, like the advantage of having one of those guys and what they can do for your ratios and stuff on a given week. Points leagues, pending the points league, sometimes points leagues will definitely be more of an advantage in pitching. So like those strategies can change and stuff like that. But, I'd say regardless for me, Roto or head to head, it's just not going to be pitching in the first two rounds. The third round, I guess in a 15 team Roto and, you pick like 35 or something like that. And if some of the hitters go and I'm not in love, like, could I reach a little bit and get a Chris Sanchez or Yamamoto? That's a possibility. I just cannot foresee taking, a top 15 to 16 pick and taking any of those pitchers unless I just really want some, I want to mix it up, which sometimes you do. I think some of the guys that do like tons of best balls or, maybe you do a multitude of like DCs or whatever, maybe you might want to just have like a little bit of parity in your roster and you want to see what one of those looks like. But I would say like the majority of the time, if we ran Sims, I'm just not. And I think, I don't want to speak for other people, but I think you see that with a lot of like the pitching guru people, you see them fading, maybe pay attention more of the people that are honed in and studied the most on pitching. If they're all fading the top guys because they're comfortable in the bounces of what you can get later in drafts, I think that also tells you something in fantasy as well, that, there's just tons of value in pitching. Now you could screw it up. To your point, you said it before, like the beauty of taking a Skeens is it's like, you're gonna have to work pretty hard to screw it up the rest of the way.
Right.
But like, if you pass on those guys, you can screw it up pretty easy. You could be like, guess what? I think Cole Reagans would be the best pitcher. Injury. I paired him with Spencer Strider. Sucks again. Also, I got Blake Snell because he was a value. You know how that story goes. Like, you could really screw it up. You got to work a lot harder to screw it up when you've got like Scooble or Skeens.
I really enjoyed listening to you and Bogman talk recently about how the term sleeper is so difficult to really quantify these days due to the immense coverage fantasy baseball gets now. Like, really, is there such thing as a sleeper? Can you explain a little more on that, why that term is almost kind of out of place these days?
Yeah, sometimes I feel bad because I feel like I drone on and I caveat things in episodes, but like I just got to like get it out of my brain sometimes. And I've done it for years where as time has gone on, when I started in like 14, we had a lot more viable sleepers. More people do content and stuff like that. So we've gotten to the point with what happens is like the term sleeper just kind of dies because like we all are playing in deeper drafts. NFBC is so much deeper. Everybody is covering everything. And there's also like a really negative like chat type of element that goes on, I think, with sleepers, because it's like, you say anybody and it's like, let's say the pitcher, is like 220 overall. Well, in a 12 team league, that guy's still pretty deep. And you're like, I think he could be better. People are like, well, so-and-so already wrote an article about this. And by the way, I played a 700 NFBC, blah, blah. And so I think like the public has kind of killed it. I think the coverage has kind of killed it. But then also one of the big things I've talked about, and also you just have to let that go. As a content person, I've let that go. But I've also explained that I think there's like it's a tree, and we're now at a point where it's a value tree, and there's branches of sleepers and breakouts and bounce backs, and there's probably another term I'm not thinking of, but they're all the same tree. They're all the same version. So it ends up just being like what I consider a sleeper, you consider a sleeper might be different than the next person. I'm actually doing a thing for The Athletic, which is picking sleepers. And it's like some people were trying to go as deep as possible. They want to prove themselves. I'm going to pick the guy that's in the 700s because I play an NFBC. And guess what? Grayson Rodriguez isn't a sleeper, but whoever the hell is a sleeper. And then there are guys that are just like, well, guess what? I think this guy is a value at their cost. And that's what I've played around with. Zach Allen has been like a prime example. You want to call him a bounce back? That's cool because I think he will bounce back. You want to call him a sleeper because of his draft value? I think that's the case. I think people would argue with me. They're like, he's not a sleeper. Yeah, drafts he's being slept on. I think he's going outside the top 65. So I think value can also dictate that, hey, I think this guy who's at 65 could be a top 40. And I think that's kind of a sleeper because we're sleeping on him. So it's just ever ending tree. And I think we keep those terms alive for like SEO. And I think, click purposes, it's just very consumable for us to be like, oh, cool, those are sleepers. Those are guys I need to get. And then you see another one. Here's the industry's favorite picks. Oh, cool. But like they're all kind of the same thing. At the end of the day, we're all just telling you these are guys that we love, or these are guys that we hate. And then we try to mold them up a little bit differently where, back in the day, it was like maybe 3 or 4 different outlets. And, maybe you only played on Yahoo, and then all of a sudden you got this person talking about, hey, this rookie pitcher is going to come up. And you're like, oh my God, that is a sleeper. And it's just, we have so much content. It really is hard to identify what that is. I'm cool with whatever you think it is. I like to give caveats so I don't have to hear people bitching about it. But I'm also just kind of like a thinky talker. And as you can tell, I'm just like droning on about that stuff. But I appreciate that you appreciated it because I think some people need that like conversation around what sleepers are, but
Right.
Whatever you think they are, I think, we get the idea. They're of value of some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had that thought before, but the way you guys kind of put it in perspective just made sense. I feel like I was never able to really like verbalize it that way. So if you guys haven't, anyone who's listening, checked out in this league or that specific episode, that's a good one to look at. I think it's a intelligent conversation there about kind of
literally
a
our
that's
sleeper
confusing.
episode, by the way.
Yeah,
So it's just called
episode.
Sleepers if you're looking for it. So we did it. We're like sleepers. And then, by the way, here's 7 different versions of what they might be. And here's our guys. So
Oh, there's another category that I kind of create in my mind, but everyone talks about it like this, called the ifs. All right, and I mean kind of the if he stays healthy. Who is your favorite if he stays healthy this season?
Ooh, that's a Bogman thing, by the way. Bogman is the king of ifs. He's the king of like, well, if this guy does this positive, or if that guy does this. I don't play that game as much. Jacob deGrom was the king of that.
Of course.
You know who I would have said last year? I can't say this year. I would have said Mike Trout. And unfortunately, our dear friend Mike has proven us a little bit wrong in that like the plate discipline is going away. Like if he in small sample sizes was hitting, 270 and showing off that, but he just couldn't stay healthy, like what deGrom would do. deGrom would be like absolutely elite. I would say he would be the king of ifs. The king of ifs right now, I think Blake Snell kind of jumps out as one of those. I mean, he also has a current injury, which maybe defeats like what you were looking for and like the draftability. But like Blake Snell is always like, oh my God, if he did this, he would be absolutely great. Like he's taken up the mantle of Jacob deGrom's ifs to me. But I also think there's other guys like if Nolan McLean pitches the whole year, I think Nolan McLean could be absolutely electric, So I think if Nico Horner could hit for power, he got a little bit bigger this year. Nico Horner could be what everybody is presuming Bryce Trang is going to be, or frankly could compete with Jazz Chisholm at that position. But those would be a couple of the names that jump out to me of the if group.
Yeah, I think of like over the last decade. You named Trout recently, but Byron Buxton, I feel like for a decade now has been the king of if he stays healthy. Obviously, last year I feel like was the best glimpse we saw it. And then as far as in the Mike Trout kind of light on the pitching side, I feel like Mike Trout for the last several years has been that guy everybody's just been rooting for. Like, please stay healthy. We just want to see your
Yeah.
greatness. I'm starting to feel that way about Shane McClanahan on the pitching side.
Oh my
Like, I
God, great
so
call.
badly want to see that guy go out and pitch a full season and just like no hiccups.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could put like Spencer Strider in there, like if,
Of course.
but McClanahan is more interesting because Strider kind of had like a stuff loss that happened. He's a two-pitch
Mhm.
pitcher that is always a little dicey, and he was such his power guy, and but the stuff lost, so like the if maybe doesn't qualify. Like McClanahan though is electric. McClanahan was one of my favorite pitchers in baseball. His changeup is disgusting. I love his approach. I love it how he attacks, and it's been I think what 2023 essentially. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, I think I heard them talking about that. Like, that's a fantastic call on Shane McClanahan because I love him. And I just thought of one other if O'Neal Cruz could
Oh,
hit for a decent batting average, he legitimately could be a first round pick. Like
yeah.
I've been a defender of him forever. I'm out right now based on his
Mhm.
cost. If he could cut the strikeouts and do what Ellie's doing, he could be incredible. So I didn't mean to divert it off of McClanahan because I think that's a
No,
good, but I just saw his name and I went, oh my God, that's one of the best. If maybe
of course.
that's one of the best groupings is Shane McClanahan and O'Neal Cruz would be two phenomenal hitter and a pitcher in the what if category.
Definitely. I mean, so I want to ask you about one specific guy here before we kind of go to some quick hitters at the end. Geraldo Perdomo, you get a close look at the Diamondbacks, obviously. He was basically, depending on what you're looking at, top 5, top 10 offensive player last season when all was said and done. You look at F4, he's in the mix there. I, so if I look at NFBC, the ADP is 79. He's the ninth shortstop coming off the board. Obviously, shortstop is loaded. We got to say that to put it in perspective. But
Yeah.
what do you think as far as Perdomo? Like, is he a guy you're willing to reach for? Do you think he's right where he should be? Do you want to see him prove it again before you start putting him higher?
Wish he was a little bit lower. I'm not going to reach for him. I don't know if I can say he's right where he should be. If he repeats,
Yeah.
if he repeats, Perdomo is going to destroy these numbers. So there's definitely like a repeatability factor that you're looking for. Like he got bigger. He looks bigger this offseason. I just saw him the other day.
Hmm.
I love Perdomo. His plate discipline is absolutely elite. I mean, it's ridiculous. The guy walked more than he struck out. He doesn't whiff. He doesn't chase. Makes great contact. Top 10 percentile expected batting average, 278. Ex Woba was up there. He doesn't have a really great hitting profile, but he does what I was mentioning before. Gets the ball in the air and he pulls the ball. I don't know if I buy the home run totals.
Hmm.
I don't know how much I buy the stolen base numbers. What I do buy is that he's going to hit for high average. He will always hit in an important part of the lineup. I think maybe the Corbin Carroll injury could lead to something like Carroll is the leadoff guy, and you have a little bit more bat impact from a player like Perdomo hitting 3. I think they list him at 3. So I'm saying is I kind of think he could get back to a 90 run, 90 RBI, and good batting average year. But could that be 15-15? Could we have more worries about RBI because, Cattell has been a little, Corbin Carroll is hurt. There's absolutely no support on the back half of their lineup. Saying
Right.
all this to say that I don't feel super comfortable with Geraldo Perdomo because, like, yes, a full repeat would be phenomenal, but I think there's a lot of things in like repeatability factor, the offense around him that I just don't know if he's like a top 75 guy. Outside the top 100, great source of batting average, but the position is so deep. I would love to have him more as like a middle infielder. So I guess I'm a little bit out on my guy, even though I think if he repeats this again, like watch out,
Yeah.
like totally watch out. But I feel like you might see more like a 15, 20, 80 to 85, both on the run and RBI and like a 270, 280 average. And that's good. That's like pretty solid and is worth like around a top 100 ish pick.
So
Ish.
we're gonna kind of end on this a little quick segment here, quick hitters. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a bunch of kind of player would you rather's, as in who would you rather draft. Of course, some of your answers might depend on format, so feel free to include a little note in your answers about that. But we'll try to go quick. All of these would you rathers feature a choice between players who are super close in NFBC ADP as of now. So we'll try to give you those as well. And I have a relatively long list. We'll see how many we can get to. But
Let's do it.
this one, I think I know your answer based on you bringing him up earlier. But the first one is Eugenio Suarez going 114 or Alex Bregman 116.
Oh yeah, Suarez. I said it. Yeah, I ruined that one. I didn't realize I ruined that one.
That's all right.
Suarez for sure. Worse environment for Bregman. Great, incredible environment for Suarez.
Ben Rice or Shea Langoliers in the catcher spot.
Ben Rice. Langoliers, I think I'm not giving enough credit to, but first base eligibility on Ben Rice, kind of what I talked about before. Definitely Ben Rice.
Right. Makes sense. Freddie Freeman, Josh Naylor, both going around 65.
Ooh, both guys I don't actually love this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman because I don't know how comfortable I am that Naylor will actually repeat those stolen base numbers. And if he doesn't, or they go down to 10, he's like poor man's Freddie Freeman. So if you want to go with the upside that he can, Naylor makes sense. I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman on that one.
Mookie Betts or CJ Abrams.
This one's mean. This is rude. I'm gonna go CJ Abrams, I think, with the elite stolen bases. I am a bit worried. I want to give the benefit of the doubt that maybe the sickness that Betts was going through, that he can kind of get back to. He's a guy that pulls the ball really well and just like gets the best out of everything he does. But I feel like he's stealing bases less. Batting average is better. Great team context, but I'm going to go with Abrams.
Okay. This one, I had this one in here. Obviously, today's news changes everything with it. I had Corbin Carroll or Ronald Acuna both going around 8.
Would have said Carroll without question. Right. Now it is without question Ronald Acuna. Who, by the way, has lots of injury issues, by the way.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Usually it would be the injury stuff on his side, but changed today. So, all right, Seiya Suzuki or O'Neal Cruz around the 94 spot.
Oh, Suzuki. I've been a Cruz guy, but like I said, I'm kind of out. I'm out on him being a top 100 player. The batting average is just so horrifically bad. Mm-hmm. Suzuki, a lot of RBI opportunities, so I'll go with him.
Lawrence Butler or Jacob Marcy, 145, 146.
Oh, I don't hate Butler for a bounce back for the minor league park. God, I think I'm going to say Jacob Marcy here. I really love Marcy. He's a guy I've been covering when he was a Padre in the AFL, and anyone's ever listened to me, they've heard my story, the long story about Marcy and me being all about him and getting crapped on for him for years. And look at him now. I think Marcy's going to steal a lot of bases. I think he's going to hit for average, and I think there'll be some power. Butler really depleted in the power department. I think this is the hardest one. This is actually the hardest one, not the Abrams and Betts one, because like Butler walks into a 2020 season. Yeah. I'm going to go Marcy, but I don't feel good about this.
Okay. I got 5 more for you, so we'll try to get these in here. Jacob deGrom or Hunter Green?
I am Jacob deGrom on that one. Bogman's Hunter Green, but give me deGrom. deGrom was able to get those innings in last year, adjusted his stuff, stayed healthy. He's still elite.
Okay. Jesus Luzardo or Kyle Bradish?
I'm gonna go with Kyle Bradish on this one. Really good back half, incredible support now. Pete Alonso there and a full season in front with a good bullpen and Helsley. I'm going to go with Bradish.
Luzardo is just one of those guys. He can look great, but when he has a bad game, it's like a complete blow up. It's just,
by the way,
8 runs.
And also Duran and great offensive support. But yeah, that's more your point. Like he can really fall apart.
Fun one here. A couple fun ones, actually. Jack Caglione or Munetaka Murakami going pretty close.
Cags. I am definitely worried about Murakami's ability to, hit that velocity. I'm going to see him in a couple days out here. Nice. I don't know how it's going to adjust. He definitely has light tower power, but guess what? Jack Caglione does too. I watched him hit a 500-foot homer. I think incredible bat speed. I don't think there's a lot you can take from last year. I think he's going to have a big bounce back with a full season in front of him. So definitely Cags.
We're talking about future guys here, maybe relatively soon. JJ Weatherholt or Kevin McGonigal.
Oh, just for this year?
We could look at it different ways. Let's say just for this year, sure.
Just for this year, Weatherholt for sure. Weatherholt has a path to break camp with the team. Second base, third base. I love this guy. Tons of contact, speed. I've likened him to like a Corbin Carroll shortstop type of guy, maybe a little less speed. Long term, I might take McGonagall. McGonagall is definitely special. They're both special players, but I think JJ Weatherhold will have significantly more at bats than McGonagall this year.
And this is the last one here. These two are not as close in ADP as the other matches I gave you. I just feel like they kind of fall into a similar basket here. Nolan McLean or Chase Burns.
Oh my gosh. Nolan McLean. I think this is a great one. I do love Chase Burns. I think his stuff is electric. There's some walk issues, but brother, I did a episode. You guys got to come out here for this. First Pitch Arizona, Baseball HQ does it. It's in November, Arizona Fall League. The whole baseball community comes out here. Everybody is here. And I did a live Fantasy Pros show. It's on our feed on YouTube if you want to go back and see it. Me and Joe Rico live, and we had guests in studio. We had Eno Saris. We had Paul Sporer. Bubba was on there. Eric Cross showed up. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I apologize. But the whole idea was who are industry's favorite picks. Cags ended up being on that show from Eno. A couple of guys we've talked about. Mine, Nolan McLean. I've been screaming about him. His stuff is ridiculous. All 6 of his pitches were over 100 stuff plus. I think it was his sweeper curveball that would have registered if qualified as the highest stuff plus pitch of that pitch in baseball. He didn't have any bumps, not walking guys. I think he spins the ball like absolutely crazy. The shapes are stupid. I think he's ridiculous. There's a lot of hype on him. He was a former two-way player too. I love Nolan McLean. So that is definitely my pick. He's rising in a lot of spots, but I think he's got the stuff to be elite really quick. I think Chase Burns has the stuff to also be elite. It just might not be as quick.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I remember Nolan McLean being taken as a two-way player, and one of his early Bowman cards, he's hitting.
Yeah, he's like a hitter.
Cool card to have.
Yeah, Bubba Chandler too. There's quite a few players people don't know. Spencer Jones was a two-way player at Vanderbilt. He was a pitcher. He went to hitting. Bryce Eldridge.
Skeens hit 20-something home runs at Air Force before going to LSU.
I think it's fascinating. It's something to consider too when you look at development of some players. By the way, where like Spencer Jones is a prospect with the Yankees, I kind of do that. I'm like, remember, he's only been hitting for this long. Nolan McLean has also only been a full-time pitcher for so long, but he's next level. I love the guy.
Well, listen, we thank you so much for coming on again. You gave us a lot of time, tons of information. For anybody listening, make sure you go check out In This League, Prospect One. I'll give you the floor before you leave here. Anything you want to plug, anything you guys got coming up?
Oh, I mean, follow me on Twitter at @IsItTheWelsh if you want to see the stuff. I got In This League. I got prospects. I'm on Fantasy Pros. I do all the Fantasy Pros pods. I'm off on a couple because I'm out at camps and stuff like that. But I do a Monday through Friday show during the year. Big thing is I got a Patreon, inthisleague.com. If people want to check it out, it helps support what I do. I do a prospect list, a top 500 prospects, top 400 dynasty. You can check that out. But Twitter's got it all. I don't know. I just appreciate you, man. I love you guys. You guys do such a fantastic job. You do a great job with, everything you've done with your shows and putting it out into the space. I see you guys on on your reels, the live shows that you get with the streaming on Twitter. Like, you guys are just doing a really good job. I appreciate it. As someone that's been doing this I'm now into my 12th year into fantasy. Like, what I've done, I see like you guys grind. You do a great job. You guys are both really great together. And I love that you guys have hit me up and you interact and talk with me. I think you guys are killer, and I'm rooting for you to keep doing big stuff. And someday I'll get you on my show. Someday I can get you guys on my show. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I need.
Well, listen, we appreciate the words. That means a lot coming from you. Yeah. And again, thank you for coming on. That's Chris Welsh, everybody. We'll be right back to wrap up the episode. All right. Once again, we want to thank Chris Welsh for coming on here. Make sure you guys tune in to all his work, whether it be Fantasy Pros, In This League, Prospect One. He does great stuff. We love having him on here. Again, we've done this 140 episodes, and he's really one of our only two-time guests. We have a few of those now, but not all that many, and we'll have him back on as well. And we're serious when we say we want to make sure we return the favor and jump on with them at some point. Unfortunately, this recent invite didn't work out, so we apologize for that. But great information from Welsh there. I mean, I could hit on a bunch of different things. The Bryce Terang one stands out. I thought he made some really good points there about how he's probably being taken too early. Like we said in that conversation, I think it makes some sense when you think about how shallow second base is. That can cause some managers to kind of take guys earlier than maybe they should be taken. The conversation kind of right in there as well around that time of the episode about Kurtz. Again, you hear that XBA, you hear the strikeout rate, and you wonder, like, if I'm doing a redraft, am I taking this guy super early? I will say personally, I am lucky enough to have him in our home league, which we will do an episode on after that draft. It's very unique, and I think that's why the episode is interesting because it's not a dynasty league. It's kind of what we call dynasty adjacent. Steve has been the commissioner of that for many years. We get lots of keepers. There's NAs, which are like prospects. So I had Kurtz as an NA, and I now get to keep him super late going into the draft, which is obviously a no-brainer. But it's different when you talk about redraft. Taking a guy like Kurtz first or early second round, there's definitely some reasons not to go down that path. His point about the pitchers, Skeens, Skubal, Crochet, first round, second round, a lot of people are doing that. And it makes a lot of sense. The comfort, like I talked about. But he does lay out a good point about all that talent you're going to pass up offensively. And it might be easier to kind of put a pitching staff together instead in lieu of those other three guys. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is the first time I've ever done an episode without Steve here. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're not begging us to make sure Steve gets back in here and get rid of me. But luckily I had a great guest to join me here to go through some fantasy baseball wonderings. Make sure you subscribe to wherever the podcast is, whether it is Apple, Spotify. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Right, Twitter is probably where we're most active. YouTube, getting a good following over there as well. If you feel up to it, if you're in a good mood there and you enjoyed the episode, leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Helps us, goes a very, very long way. We have some really exciting stuff coming as the World Baseball Classic gets closer, as college baseball will be here in what seems like hours at this point, and as spring training has begun and Major League Baseball is creeping back towards us. Monday, we are planning on recording a World Baseball Classic preview episode with the one and only Sean Spradling, okay, probably the biggest guy to follow on Twitter, to kind of learn about the World Baseball Classic and keep up to date. So looking forward to having him on there as well. So make sure you follow so you can listen to that as well. I'm going to get out of here for now. As you can probably tell, my voice is hanging on by a thread. So I'll steal Steve's line to end it right now. Happy baseball.
Has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by